Today is the day and we're breaking down everything you need to know. Now first up here would be the removal of the active drop pool. Now this is for cases specifically, we'll talk about skins later, but I don't think this is necessarily the most likely outcome. However, it's not completely off the table. Whether it's one or multiple of these cases going away, there is a lot of potential in this area for change, and I think that's definitely something a lot of people are looking at. Now in my opinion, if this does to happen, you're definitely going to want to go ahead and make sure you buy some snakebite and some fracture cases. These two are the cheapest and they're most likely going to accelerate with the most growth, provided they're removed. SkinSwap is today's sponsor, and they're also sponsoring you with a free bonus for signing up with the first link in the description. They're the premier place for CSGO and Rust skins, with a massive trading site and a top-of-the-line marketplace, offering you the most competitive rates out there and a massive 40% bonus when you're using that link in the description. Combine that with their top-of-the-line selling feature with many payout options, and their trading feature legitimately taking you just about a minute, and there's no reason not to sign up with that first link in the description. Now, the removal of Paris is one that probably everyone is interested in, and in my personal opinion, I think it's very likely that it could possibly happen today. Nothing's guaranteed, but when we look at the length of the sales been going on and the fact that things are now starting to slip off, I think it's a great time for Valve to go ahead and remove it and get a clean slate. Now, when we're talking about the hollows specifically, they have been down a decent amount, especially over the past month. We really haven't seen any of them actually accelerating or growing in price, but rather receding and losing a decent amount of that money, which is not necessarily exactly what we want to see as an investor. However, I will say these things were highly pumped up, and the fact that there could be some competition in the future, I think Paris is better off being removed right now. Now personally, even when it does get removed, I'm not planning to make any more investments into Paris or even any of the stickers, but Paris specifically, I just feel like I've got enough risk in that area. And when we're talking about the hollow specifically, it's such a risky area because we don't know if they're going to go down more, especially if we get new content. These stickers are still extremely liquid, and there's a ton of people with a ton of stickers, and they're probably going to sell off a decent amount of them if we do see some brand new content and they want the funds. Now the other thing we could possibly see get removed is the 8 active duty collections right here, or a combination of maybe 1 or 2. In my personal opinion, I think it's going to be very beneficial if you do have some investments into this area specifically, if you're also interested in trade up filler. If we want to look at these skins right here, these are the only ones that can actually be used in trade ups, and they all come from these 8 collections right here, or some of these collections, which is very important because that means if these collections are removed, trade up fillers have the possibility to absolutely explode in price because there's going to be no reasonable supply to take that place, and therefore these ones are going to continue on growing, especially into the long-term future. If we want to zoom out on some of these, like the Emerald Pinstripe, it's already been growing over time, but I think we would definitely see some more massive growth for some of those light blue and blue level skins. I don't think this is necessarily the most likely outcome, however, it's once again possible, and that's exactly what this video is about. Now, talking about the rare case market, I think there's definitely a very strong trajectory for these over the next 6 months, and I think especially in the next month, because we can look at this right here, case unboxings are ready to go inside of CS2, and you know what happens when that releases. We're going to be having tons of people flocking into the game just to open cases. We can look at on case unboxing numbers right now, and we can see that they haven't been absolutely massive, but they've been consistent, and we haven't seen that same consistent growth for a lot of cases over the past month, which is a decent thing in my opinion, because that means these cases are most likely going to move very quickly when they do start moving. They take a lot to get moving, but once they do, they can absolutely explode, which is what we've seen in the past, and I think the fact that now cases are actually going to be able to be unboxed inside of CS2, presumably with this update, is going to be a very strong trajectory moving these cases forward. If you're looking to pick up some rare cases, I think it's going to be in your best interest to do it rather quickly than holding off. A lot of these have a very strong future ahead of them, and even if we don't see any massive boosts provided by this update, a lot of them have had a very strong 2023, and I would expect them to continue as such moving forward. Now, the one caveat with that plan is obviously an operation. An operation is going to have some very interesting market impacts because we honestly don't exactly know what's going to happen. Previously, when an operation released, we saw everything go down. Active duty cases drop 40%, rare cases drop 25 to 30%, and pretty much everything all across the board dropping rather decently in price. But the truth is, we don't exactly know what would happen if we see a major update rolled out with an operation. That's exactly what the possibility is here. If we see an operation less than 2 weeks after we see the release of CS2, I think it's going to be very interesting what happens to the market. We don't exactly know, especially for some of these items that we know are going to increase long term, like rare cases. Are they going to be dropping down in price, or are the investing hype and the investing people going to carry that price right back up along with the unboxing demand? We don't exactly know, but I think it's definitely one you do need to be a little bit interested in, but I wouldn't necessarily say scared at this point, just because we know long term, and especially if you're planning to hold long term, it shouldn't be that much of an issue. Now, earlier I mentioned you might want to invest into the fracture of the snakebite. However, there's a big caveat that comes with that, especially for the fracture case investors. If we want to look at this right here, this is the expected supply of every single case case in CSGO. This is the clutch case. The clutch case was the most massive supply we had ever seen, and this is exactly what happened to the clutch case when it got removed. It shot up very quickly because people were obviously investing into it, and it dropped down pretty much back to the same level it was sitting at beforehand. That's very important because the clutch case supply was so massive, it could not overcome that in a short period with all the investors coming into it. Now obviously it has grown since then, but not to the extent we've seen the other rare cases grow because the supply is so massive. And that's exactly what the possibility to happen with the fracture case is right here. Even the snake bite's a little bit kind of pushing it. I think it's definitely possible we could see the fracture case spike up in price and then lose a decent amount of that just because we see so many people not understanding the massive supply that is currently behind the fracture case. Now we mentioned it earlier, but filler skins are one that tend to be very popular during times of a brand new case or a brand new operation. Considering we expect to see a decent amount of brand new content over the upcoming months and a lot of trade up demand over the next upcoming months, it might not be a bad idea to look into some trade up fillers. Now obviously you need to make sure you're not overpaying because trade up fillers are a really easy one to buy at an overpriced value and then not be able to turn a profit. But if we're looking at some of these cheaper ones that are still not going up in value a ton, it might be an okay alternative, especially if you're looking for something that's not going to lose a ton of its value. Now exploding items is not anything specific, however we're probably going to see at least some items shoot up in price rather quickly, and the truth is you should definitely make sure you're avoiding these at all costs. A lot of them are going to revert back to a very similar price point they were sitting at beforehand, and unless we're talking about something that's like a collection skin or something that has a discontinued amount and a relatively low amount, it's probably not going to sit at that very elevated price for super long. Therefore investing into it's probably not going to be in your best interest. Talking about other things that are not in your best interest, selling is not going to be in your best interest unless you're doing it beforehand, and the slight chance it does come with an operation or an area where you need funds, you're going to want to have those funds on hand because prices do have the potential to drop rather quickly, and if we see brand new content, it's very likely that those first couple days are going to be downward trends in the market no matter what, even if there's a ton of investors pumping it back up, and therefore you're not going to be wanting to sell at those lower prices, and you don't also want to hold out because you don't know how long it's going to be until prices recover. Therefore, if you do need the funds and you desperately need them, I would highly suggest you sell beforehand this update. Now if we see a brand new case release, it's actually really easy for you to make profit. That's because you're going to go into CSGO right now and level up your XP almost all the way to a brand new level. That's because drops reset last night, and therefore by watching this video and being prepared, you could be one of the first people to go ahead and get this brand new drop provided it actually comes out. Now what would I personally do? The truth is I'm not going to be buying or selling. This is video 3 of the 3-part mini series on how to prepare for this. I've got full videos about those if you want to check them out, but I don't think those are going to be in your best interest right now. I think honestly what's in your best interest is to wait and be there first. By being there first and seeing what happens with the update, you're going to have a significant advantage because we're going to be looking at current market prices with new information. Therefore we can buy, sell, or do whatever we need to before the masses start to come in and raise or lower prices significantly. But that's pretty much all I got. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.